All right, what's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? Hope everybody is doing great. Welcome to the session. Super, super excited to be here with each and every single one of you guys. Make sure I mute this. We got Lisa in the building, Benji, Adolf, Anthony. What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday, guys. Excited for a brand new week as we are already mid-September, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, hope you guys have had an amazing weekend so far. I'm doing great, Benjamin. Appreciate you. Just ready to go this week as we are closing in on the final weeks before our big event in Atlanta. If you guys know, we were actually just in Rome the past weekend, so that's why we didn't do a Sunday Market Outlook last time. Um, so definitely hated to miss out, hanging out with you guys last Sunday. Um, but we definitely had a great time out there. For those that, are in Akashics, you already kind of know that, those are our conventions that we run, every other couple of months, just to connect with the community, give some in-person value, giveaways, and really just kind of getting everybody, together to, just improve, connect, and take things to the next level heading out of that event. Again, as far as growing the brand of Akashics. So if you guys are not part of the private mentorship program within this company called Akashics, if you guys are not a member, um, definitely look to get involved at some point. Because ultimately, a community is always the biggest cheat code for people to just have increase overall, whether it's your skill set as a trader, just who you know, who's in your contact list, and really just the caliber of people that you hang around. For me, that's just been always a big thing is if I want to be a great trader, if I want to become, a leader, an entrepreneur, whatever the case is, the quickest way to do that is just to get in the room with these type of people as consistently as possible. So again, we do have Atlanta coming up now at the beginning of October, so just a couple weeks away. All right, so let me actually send some quick messages here to all the chats and whatnot to make sure that people can tap in. Let me actually copy the link here. All right, so we got that sent out here. All right, cool. Perfect. So without further ado, guys, let's look at what we got cooking for this week. So something that's very, very big to pay attention to is going to be FOMC, which is going to be on Wednesday. So there's a lot of talk already when it comes to FOMC with potential high probability. Everybody's really speculating that this is like a done deal, that they're going to slash rates. And I believe the last couple of FOMCs, we saw the rates actually stay the same. So a rate slash will definitely have some impact on the markets. Um, so that's going to be something to look out for. In general, the indices have been pushing. Obviously, we've been making all-time highs again in that sector. So, and obviously that's what we focus on. So, there's a lot of people that trade Forex, cryptos, gold, whatever. But I focus on the indices, specifically Nasdaq. So again, as far as that sector of indices goes, we have been seeing all-time highs being printed as far as the S&P 500, Nasdaq, etc. So I think we'll keep that going, but ultimately, news at the end of the day, at least short term from an intraday perspective, is always going to be just the excuse to hunt liquidity and basically just manipulate positions in the market. We'll see that long-term effects of that actual FOMC conference heading into like the next week, next couple months, etc. Um, so we'll see. But definitely that's going to be the day where I think we'll finally get some strong movement, followed up on Thursday with unemployment claims. So as far as Monday and Tuesday, we do have some impact as far as like the beginning of the week, but I think FOMC is definitely what everybody's really, really waiting for. So, if we get some clean type of opportunities based off of the things I look for in the market during our window in New York session, then cool, we'll look for some positions, but I wouldn't expect the market to give much until FOMC. So we'll see. Let's see. Are there certain types of news that you would not recommend trading? Well, here's my thing. So in general, I really like have it as a trading plan and just something that I've repeated. And I'll kind of show you like last week all the different opportunities that I was looking at. Where basically the majority of my positions come like after or before high impact news. Okay. So like more times than not, I will position myself post 9:30. So 9:30 a.m. is where we have the New York Stock Exchange open price. Okay, so just really depends how much experience you guys have on this session to know certain things as far as like sessions and market timing, as far as when the market, specifically indices like Nasdaq, like when it moves. So at 9:30 is where we really have my main focus, where price opens up for the day. We saw, for example, Friday, 9:30 a.m. hits, price spikes down, eventually ends up pushing and rallying the rest of the day. So positioning for buy opportunities was like the strongest thing. And that's actually what I did on Friday. And it was sent out to the whole community on Akashex as a signal, alert, whatever you want to call it, to basically be positioned in at buys at 24,005, basically 24,000, and looking to take that up uh, for about four times our risk. So again, I'll cover some of these opportunities, but I say that because, for example, more times than not, high impact news will be like an hour before stock market open price. So 8:30 a.m. you'll usually see CPI, unemployment claims, PPI, literally all of that. And then FOMC is like the one news event that's in the afternoon. That's always like 2 p.m. Eastern. So FOMC days are definitely different for me. Again, it doesn't mean we can't find a position in my window, which is usually from like 9:30, 10 a.m. all the way to about 2 p.m. That those first like that basically that 4 hour candle from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is really my main priority. And so that comes before FOMC, right? So I tend to like look at FOMC as a day where, I might not get a crazy movement because FOMC comes later in the day, but if I do, cool. I prefer to actually be out of the market during high impact news in general, especially FOMC, and just really trade the aftermath because a lot of times like people they see the big move that happens during news and they're like, "Oh man, I want to catch that." And if you have a strategy or some type of way that you can repeatedly do that, or if you just want to gamble, like I'll be honest, like some people just have certain trading accounts just for gambling on news, and you might have like a way to kind of like, do a fundamental analysis of what you expect, or maybe you go for liquidity sweep reversals or something of that nature where you just want to gamble on maybe a small loss or something that just goes 5x, 10x. There's people that find ways to do that. That's cool. But for me, that's not like proper, strategic long-term trading for like your main accounts, if you want to look at it that way. So in general, again, I don't really like it's not a goal for me to want to be into news trades, whether it is unemployment claims, PPI, CPI, whatever. And like I can even go back this last week, right? So from the 8th to the 12th, right? That was last week. I can show you 2 days. So we had the Wednesday PPI at 8:30 and then September 11th CPI at 8:30. And then we even had Friday the 12th, we had 10 a.m. Sentiment. I mean, this one's not really, even though it's a red folder, it's not like the major ones that we look at. Like for me, the major news is always going to be unemployment claims, PPI, CPI, NFP, and FOMC. All right. Other than that, you have like earnings reports for things like Nvidia or Apple, where quarterly they're going to be dropping, reports on their earnings and all that stuff. And, like for example, the 28th, I think it was, of August, this right here. So this was the Nvidia earnings report day, and specifically like that candle where we see that huge impulse there. Okay, so that huge drop off that we see here, that is from the Nvidia earnings. So if you actually look at when that candle happened, that's at like 4:20 p.m., which is that literally like last hour of the trading day. So it's technically post. So Nasdaq technically closes at 4 p.m. So like post market, you see that candle just kind of go crazy there. It dropped about, I don't know how much this was, like 2,500 pips, 250 points. So that's the only other sneaky type of news that sometimes people don't know to pay attention to when they trade NAS. Because they're just used to checking Forex Factory and they're not aware about earnings reports. Because they don't know about stocks, for example. But yeah, that's really like the main thing. So again, I'm not somebody that intentionally looks to jump into news trades on purpose. If my other confirmations and things that I like to look for as far as like how I play off the Asian range and just liquidity, market structure, other concepts, if it makes sense and it just happens to be that news is happening around that time, then whatever, like I'll jump in, but that's kind of my MO. So again, I'll just kind of review, how we got to where we're at right now in price, um, from this past week. So, like I was saying here, we had high impact news on the 10th, right? Wednesday, September 10th. This was PPI at 8:30. So if we go back here, this is Wednesday over here. Okay. So if we actually look at 8:30 right here. So I'll actually move this to like 8:20. And so if we actually look at the news candle, so this little window right here, let me actually drop it even further to like a 2-minute candle. All right. We can see that price from 8:30 right here. We saw that candle rally uh about 100 points or 1,000 pips at 8:30. And afterwards, we saw a sell-off. So again, people want to, try to catch the news move, for example. And for me, I personally would rather catch like the aftermath. If we actually go to my Telegram here for the community chat in Akashics, and we go back to Wednesday here. So this was Wednesday. We saw this is the red folder news. We saw we hit all-time highs during that candle. Okay, and I ended up going short at around 23,980. You guys can see the sell-off there. That was kind of like the aftermath. So personally, I like to trade the aftermath of news always, because a lot of times whenever you have a spike in price, especially during news, whatever goes fast doesn't last. You got to always remember that when it comes to the market. And it's really important to understand concepts like fair value gaps, because that's really like what gives me a compass to like know where the market will want to gravitate towards later. Price is always going to either look to manipulate highs and lows or to rebalance price. That's really it. And so whenever we have this candle where, we have price spiking, like how it did here, and we leave this gap here, okay? I know at some point when price is finally ready to just chill out from that spike, it's gonna wanna at minimum come to revisit that gap. And if it wants to go below the gap, cool. But at minimum, we can look to try to take price back into the gap. And yeah, basically, and this is something I broke down in Akashics when we went live that day. Um, so again, this is the candle. And basically, we saw 9:30 open price is right here. You can see this white line that goes across the screen. That's 9:30 a.m. So the fact that we saw price kind of like, stop over here at news, came back down, failed to really make another high, and just kind of sat around. Once 9:30 hit, we started looking for sells there to, at minimum, take us into here and then see how we react. So again, if you guys recall, we jumped in at around, what was it, 970? 980. 23,980. So you guys can see the position there. Why is my, okay, here we go. So 980 was right here. 980. 30-point stop. And again, I was really just looking to take it into here at a minimum and see how we react. Now the 930 candle literally dropped to here. So if we go replay mode, 930 hit, and right away we didn't even have to worry about us getting a reaction from the fair value gap. It basically just went straight to about a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, which is really all I try to squeeze out of a trade at minimum. Obviously I want to try to get triple, quadruple my risk if possible. But yeah, price kind of just sat around here after a 2-to-1. My main target was really just kind of getting to the low of that news candle. So this is the actual news candle low here. So right here is like the objective, okay? So if I anticipate that this is just going to be a fake candle to spike price, then eventually I'd want to see that origin point of where the manipulation happened in the market, basically fail. So that's really where I was looking to target, as you can see from here. You can see the TPs right there. Around 9:15. So it was like around here. Okay, so yeah, long story short, price hit that, and we ended up running the low here as well. So that was what I tell you about news. So for Benjamin asking me about the news, um, I don't need to necessarily focus on that really crazy volatile 1 minute candle that can sometimes print where I don't really know what to expect. But once that candle prints, and sometimes it's just a 1 minute candle, sometimes it's a series of a couple candles. Like that candle gives me a lot of information. And if I see us struggling, because sometimes you do get a spike and then price kind of does keep going for the rest of the day. Like that can happen, but a lot of times if we get a very aggressive spike, we tend to come the other way, at least, you know, for a while to catch a decent reversal off of the manipulation from news. So that's basically the play there. And again, there was other opportunities that could have been found even after that, like post 9:30, like at 10 a.m. But we'll just kind of cut that day there. And I'll get to your guys' questions here now in just a second, but I wanted to just finish this thought because the other news day was the following day, which was on 9/11. Same time we had high impact news at 8:30. Okay. So if we go back to Thursday, where we at? Over here. This is Thursday. Change this to a 5-minute candle. All right, Thursday. What did I do on Thursday? Did I go for buys on Thursday? I forgot. Let me see. Uh, um, yeah, this is Thursday, right? Yeah, this was Thursday. 23,960. 23,960 right here. Okay. Yeah, I remember this now. All right, cool. So, 8:30. We're gonna put this at 8:20 again. So 8:20 to about 8:40. Okay. If we go on the 1 minute, this is high impact news at 8:30. So we saw that. Let me actually lock this real quick. Okay. So 8:30 was basically this candle right here. Whoops. This candle right there, right? So we saw a price basically at 8:30. Price opened right here and spiked down a lot, ended up coming up higher and then closing back down, respecting the low and then creeping its way up. So again, I'm not saying you can't trade it. I'm just proving the point to you that like with receipts and everything of how we personally handled this as a community and what I did, I don't even worry about this because again, I don't know what to expect, and it's very quick moving. And I don't know, I don't like the market to like force me into positions. I like to basically allow any high speed, unpredictable type of moves to pass me by and then kind of trade the aftermath because that high impact news is always going to leave clues about what's next. And I just think that FOMO is really a big issue where people like think they have to catch the news. If not, they miss the trade for the day, and it's just not true. Um, you just won't catch it in that moment. So I'm also not saying that you shouldn't trade news if you have a system built around an edge where you can consistently either win most times or maybe you don't win most of the time, but your risk to reward ratios justify you pushing trades during those windows of high impact news. Again, for me, I don't like being pushed into trades that are very fast moving and that don't really have a lot of predictability in the short term. I'd rather just let it pass by and then trade the aftermath. All right. So again, this was the news window. I ended up not trading during that window. And then basically we wait for post 9:30, like I mentioned. So 9:30 a.m. hits at this white line that you see dragging across. Okay. So 9:30 hits, price spikes, price drops, kind of does this whole dance here, whatever. So on that day, I think I was on a 3 minute time frame, maybe around here. Um, was it here? Yeah, here. Okay. Trying not to get lost in my own chart here. Friday, Thursday. Okay. Where's 10 a.m.? 10 a.m. is right here. Okay. So 10 a.m., 960? Something is wrong here. Hold on. I'm like getting lost in my own chart right now. Okay, no wonder. This is Friday. I'm like, I know something's wrong here. Okay, here we go. So, part of like how I trade, it depends if you're familiar with my strategy or not. Obviously, if you're in a Akashic, you should have an idea more or less. But I really pay attention to the Asian range as part of my like, analysis for where I expect market to go for the day. We saw that, during London session, price, was able to stay above Asia highs, and then even post high impact news, we saw price spike and recover. So whether it was during London, whether it was during high impact news or even the 9:30 open, price tried to come below Asia and it just was not having it. It was just continuing to push higher. So I had a bullish bias for the rest of the day. And yeah, basically once 9:30 washed out, I was looking at 10 a.m. So the 10 a.m. candle was right here. Yep. Looking at that 10 a.m. candle and seeing that we were tapping into a fair value gap here, I was really interested in getting into buy opportunities there. So if you were on the session, you guys should be able to recall we were talking about getting into positions at 960, 30-point stop, and then we basically ran like a 2-to-1 before price ended up kind of stalling out for the rest of the day. And it ended up continuing to respect that heading into the next trading day, as you can see. But personally, I don't like to hold multiple days. So I was actually personally cutting that off at a 2-to-1. And then Friday, we ended up continuing to buy and catching the rest of the day there. But yeah, this is just the 2 days that had the high impact news that I really wanted to like kind of like show you since we were talking about FOMC this week and just kind of giving you assurances that you don't need to trade FOMC. We can trade it prior, we can trade it the next day. As long as you have something that you follow as far as like a strategy or a system that makes sense. So this was actually a trade that was called live, and then the other one that we talked about, um, the one that I showed you here that I traded at 9:30, I didn't call out that one as an alert. I actually ended up calling sells on the live session a little bit lower. So I called sells that day at 9:20. So 9:20 was here. Yeah. So these were the sells that we called actually on the live session, and it ran for over a 4-1 when it was all said and done. Again, if we go to the Telegram, that was this day here. So 23/9/20, kind of just following up with that move that we got earlier. And yeah, we even saw some students here looking at those sell positions with me. We can see some profits from some of the members here. So yeah, Thursday was good. I mean, honestly, all last week we were very, very on point with the direction for the day and really just getting good trades. So if you guys are in a Koschex and you didn't really take advantage of last week, um, we just gotta kind of understand why. Like was it because you're not able to tap into the sessions? Did you just have like no focus for trading last week because of personal stuff? I mean, all those things are gonna happen. There's people that have really good trading weeks when I don't, and vice versa. But as far as like my strategies, my concepts, my confirmations, like all the stuff I teach was very, very present last week. And it was a smoother week than most weeks, to be honest. So hopefully we can continue that heading into this one. But yeah, that kind of catches us up with where we're at now. And I'll break that down for you guys now, but I just want to check the chat here first real quick. Let's see. Ok, so for my Spanish people, sí, ¿cómo están? Mañana es la sesión en español. Tengo mis sesiones en Akashex en español cada lunes a las 11 de la mañana Eastern Time, que son las 10 Central, que debe ser el horario de Colombia, por ejemplo, las 10 de la mañana. Son como una hora antes de cuando lo hago, disculpa, una hora después es cuando lo hago el martes, miércoles y jueves. All right. So yeah, for this week, we saw. So this is like the macro analysis. If we look at like a 4-hour time frame and we kind of look at, where we've been over the past week or two and where we stand, right? So just kind of keeping things simple. This was the previous all-time high, which was a little bit over, basically right below 24,000. So this is a very important price point to pay attention to as a reference. That was part of the reason why I was selling post that 8:30 news on Wednesday. I think it was PPI or whatever. If we drop this back down to a 30-minute. So again, the news candle and all that, I think it was on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday right here. We saw it take that previous all-time high, and then we saw it sell off. So that was another big confirmation I didn't really explain when I was going over the last Wednesday trade. But yeah, that was a big part of me going short. Now, personally, I thought that again, if we look at it from a macro time frame, that we would get a reaction from there because anytime you break an old all-time high, like for example, this all-time high happened in mid-August. So basically like a month later, if you have an all-time high get hit, I'm very like much more inclined to sell that because there's a lot of liquidity, a lot of sellers that may have been holding positions like swing trading for over a couple of weeks. And so when those people start getting their price revisited, there's a lot of people getting taken out of orders and things of that nature. So usually you're gonna get a little bit of a sell-off after old liquidity gets hit like that. But now that we got that first reaction and we started seeing price basically, hold and climb its way back up into that all-time high, we started finally seeing it break through. So for me, initially I think that again, FOMC is gonna be really what is gonna tell us, right? If I had to guess, and what I say right now doesn't really matter because we're gonna get more information over the week, and that's gonna maybe change my bias because we intraday trade. I'm not swing trading, so I don't need to like have a very like strong pulse on long-term direction. I just need to basically play my cards right during my windows to take advantage of that day's price action. But if I had to call it now, I would say I'd still focus more on potentially staying above and pushing a little bit higher. In general, whenever I'm in all-time high territory, I don't want to buy the absolute highs. But if we get like, let's say a pushback down to like, 24,000 or somewhere around here and we start getting rejections, then I could see myself wanting to buy and continuing to push. What I don't like doing is buying the actual like near all-time high price. I'd rather always sell all-time high prices to get back to where we've been before, and then when we've been where we've been before, and I get any type of buy confirmations based off of like what I look for, then I'll look to take that to a new all-time high and then repeating the cycle. So if I'm at an all-time high price, I always want to try to sell. If I sell off and we start to recover, I want to try to buy and take it to a new all-time high price. The environment of when you trade near all-time highs versus when you're nowhere near them. So, like, for example, the last several weeks, this was again mid-August, right? And then after mid-August, we had a whole sell-off here. So, anytime from like August 19th to basically these last couple of days, I didn't have to worry about all-time highs. I was just looking at all of the other order blocks, fair value gaps, etc. that was like in between that move. But now that we're in all-time high territory again, it changes the way I see price a little bit because we don't have any information over here. All of that is a big question mark, you know? So the only thing I can say as far as like a projection, if I am bullish for where we can go, is always going to be psychological whole numbers. So like we're close to 24,200, right? This is the next major psychological whole number. And price will definitely react to these numbers in general, but especially if it's not like if it's uncharted territory. So 24,200 is going to be a big price. All right. So if we're bullish, this is the first psychological number I would want to get to. And then, yeah, I can look at like 24,250, for example, but I like to go by like every 100 on NASDAQ specifically. So like 24 200 and then 24,300. Again, not having any information, that's what I would like pay attention to first. So I won't do 24,300 yet. I'll just put 24,200. So I already know that the previous all-time high was this black line right here. I'll put it gold as well, just so I kind of know these are my important levels. So basically 23,985, let's call it. Okay. That was the previous all-time high. Again, we saw price test that, react, come back into it, and now push off, right? So you can call it support turn, you can call it resistance turn support if you like. I just don't use that type of language with my trading, but you could say that that's what happened there, right? So yeah, basically 24,200 will be the next place I'd want to see price go if we are gonna get other confirmations that tell me to buy. And if we're gonna sell, then I would expect to get back down to, previous all-time high and then kind of take it from there. So yeah, at this point for me, I just need to let, Sunday night play out, let London session form, and then see where we're at tomorrow before 9:30 to really kind of find an intraday trade idea. Sometimes you might, like if you're in a cautious, you might see me call a trade on like a Sunday night if we get like a crazy spike when the market opens on a Sunday. So far, we haven't had like a real significant push since we saw the market open today. So there's really no like gaps or any type of funky stuff that I'm looking to kind of like play off of. We just got like a kind of a normal open, nothing crazy. So yeah, tomorrow during my window, specifically after 9:30 is when I'll be focused on looking for trades. we have very balanced price in this so far. Like we don't have any fair value gaps down here. There's really nothing that would want the market to come down here yet. So yeah, let's see how London session plays out, and then we'll take a trade tomorrow if everything's clean and go from there. But supposedly with the interest rates, supposedly they're gonna be cut. It should boost Nasdaq heavily, So fundamentally, we're supposed to go a lot higher. Now, whether we will, at least short term, that's where the manipulation and all that kind of comes into it with trading. So we'll see. Other than that, yeah, it's really nothing else. It's just kind of just waiting now. So if you guys got some questions, let me know, and then we'll head up out of here. But yeah, um, as far as crypto and all that stuff, I haven't really looked at it lately. Yeah, there's really nothing different that I'm looking at for crypto right now. All right. So I think we're good. I don't see any questions so far. So if that's the case, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if you guys are in Akashics, tomorrow is when I start streaming. It will be in Spanish at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is when I do my English sessions. So just depends if you're bilingual or not, but that's when I'll be streaming via Akashics, and we'll see what type of opportunities we can find this week. Have you seen a trend when they dropped interest rates in the past? Again, like typically, like the point of dropping the interest rates is to boost the economy and stuff like that. So it's like, that's why you'll see people have a real big emphasis on, the stock market is supposed to be, doing well when that happens. But again, like I won't ever tell people that I'm an expert on fundamentals because I just my trading style has never required me to like have a really strong heartbeat on that. Even if you tell me like, well, it's good to know it because you're gonna be able to like anticipate the next trend or whatever. Like the price action is gonna tell me the trend anyways. I don't know. I've just never found it to be like an absolute game changer with the way I trade. If you're a swing trader or an investor or something along those lines, then of course you kind of need to definitely be a little bit more savvy when it comes to like economics and how, interest rates, housing, bonds, and all of those other markets kind of affect one another. I just can't sit here and say I spend a lot of time researching or trying to comprehend the effects and how it compares to charts and all that. I just haven't done it. I'm like, I just know enough to kind of anticipate a little bit, but again, the candlesticks don't lie. Like the candlesticks are really what shows you things. And ultimately, again, when you're like position trading, like we're not investing, right? We're trading. And when you're trading, you can short the market, you can buy the market. So ultimately, it's not like I'm buying into some type of company or like I'm investing into, the S&P 500. I'm really looking to just manipulate daily price action. And so even if I get, FOMC interest rates tell me that they're slashed and the market's gonna get boosted, you might see that day the market crash and you're like, what the hell happened? And that's why I really don't care because it's like the market can short-term crash against what the data says it should be doing, and that's gonna just confuse sometimes people a lot more than anything. So it's like I actually anticipate the market to do the opposite of what it supposedly is going to do, at least in the short term. And then over the next couple days, weeks, whatever, you might see the actual effects of the interest rate cuts, manifest into what it's supposed to be. But short term, it may not, it might do the complete opposite. And so that's just been my observation from 7 years of trading is like the news is irrelevant for day trading, other than just having a sense of when the manipulation is going to happen. And again, usually I just allow that to wash out and then basically trade the aftermath like I kind of covered the last couple of days and what that looked like. So yeah, that's what I would say. But yeah, guys, we're gonna go ahead and jump up out of here. I will see you guys on the cost checks and the chats and all of that throughout the week. But I hope that you have an amazing rest of your Sunday night. I will see you guys soon. And yeah, make sure you guys get to Atlanta, whether you are in a cost checks or not. You guys can get tickets to be at that event. It'll be October 3rd. I'll pull some information on where to get the tickets and all that, but I look forward to seeing you guys there. If not on the next YouTube live session or Akashic's live sessions, wherever you guys are going to be tapping into. All right. So much love, guys. Appreciate